Rebecca Smith sat by the window of a small coffee shop, dressed in her black formal wear. She sipped her coffee slowly, watching people move about the busy street. The warm colors of the shop made her feel a little better, but she still wasn't happy. At 27, Rebecca was a successful architect, one of the best in her city, but her love life was a mess. Unfortunately, even though she enjoyed great success as an architect, her love life hadn't worked out the same way. Despite being surrounded by male colleagues, Rebecca's rigid personality managed to drive them far away. Her peers at work called her the Ice Queen, but none of them knew the real Rebecca, who was quite different outside the office. Her mother, Mary Smith, was always nagging her about getting married. Mary had set up so many blind dates for Rebecca that she had lost count. This was her 98th date, and the second one this week. Rebecca didn't want to be here. She stirred a sugar cube into her coffee, wishing she could just tell her mother to stop. But Mary wouldn't stop comparing her to younger women who already had children or grandchildren. Rebecca sighed and touched her face. Her skin was still smooth, but it didn't feel like it did years ago. Back then, she had been excited about love. Now she just wanted to find someone who wasn't too hard to live with. Her date was late. Rebecca checked her watch. It had been more than 3 minutes. Normally, she would have walked out by now, but her mother had told her this man was special. He was the son of Mary's old friend and had just come back from living abroad. If Rebecca left, Mary would make her go on more dates. And Rebecca was tired of them. Finally, the man arrived. "Excuse me, are you Rebecca Smith?" he asked. "I'm sorry I'm late. The traffic was terrible." Rebecca looked up. The man, John Brown, was dressed in a simple shirt and trousers. His shoes looked old, but he had a kind smile. "It's okay," Rebecca said, forcing a smile. "I just got here." But inside, she was annoyed. Everyone knew the traffic in this city was bad. Why didn't he leave earlier? Still, Rebecca decided to stay and give him a chance. John sat down, and they ordered coffee and snacks. He asked Rebecca about her job and her hobbies. His voice was calm and gentle, and Rebecca found herself talking more than she expected. John was not like the other men Rebecca had met. He seemed honest and didn't try too hard to impress her. But Rebecca noticed something strange. Even though he dressed like someone struggling with money, he spoke with confidence. He seemed to know a lot about architecture, even though he said he wasn't an architect. "Have you studied buildings before?" Rebecca asked. "Not really," John said with a smile. "But I like to read about them. I think buildings are like stories. They tell us a lot about the people who live in them." Rebecca nodded, surprised. She didn't expect someone dressed so simply to think like that. As they continued their conversation, John's phone suddenly rang. He glanced at the screen briefly and then silenced it, placing it face down on the table. Rebecca noticed his reaction and raised an eyebrow. "Aren't you going to answer that? It could be important," she said. John shook his head with a polite smile. "It's nothing urgent. I don't want to be rude." Rebecca's curiosity was piqued. "You should pick up. I don't mind waiting," she said. John hesitated, then let out a small sigh. "Okay, if you insist. I will just step outside for a moment." He grabbed his phone and excused himself, walking toward the coffee shop's entrance. Rebecca sipped her coffee, her eyes following John as he stepped outside. Something about his body language seemed off, nervous, maybe even guilty. Her instincts told her to pay attention. Unable to resist her curiosity, Rebecca stood up quietly and walked toward the glass door. She stayed hidden, but close enough to hear his conversation outside. John answered the call, his voice low. "Hello? Why are you calling now?" A woman's voice came through, filled with frustration. "John, don't act like you don't know why I'm calling. I've been waiting all day for you to send the money. The rent is due and the kids need groceries." Rebecca froze. "Kids? Rent?" She pressed her back against the wall, her heart pounding. "Listen, I told you I'd handle it later," John said, sounding irritated. "I'm busy right now." The woman's voice grew sharper. "Busy doing what? Are you on one of those fake business meetings again? I can't keep covering for you with the landlord, John. We need that money now." John sighed deeply. "I will sort it out, okay? Just stop calling me every 5 minutes." "Stop calling you?" the woman shot back. "I'm your wife, John. I have every right to call you when you're out pretending to be something you're not." Rebecca's breath caught in her throat. Wife. The word echoed in her mind like a thunderclap. She stepped out from behind the wall, her fists clenched. "John!" she called out, her voice sharp. John spun around, startled. His face turned pale when he saw her standing there, glaring at him. Rebecca stormed up to him. "Who are you talking to, John? Or should I say, what are you hiding?" John stammered, trying to compose himself. "Rebecca, it's not what you think." It's exactly what I think," Rebecca snapped, cutting him off. "I heard everything. You have a wife and kids. You came here pretending to be single. Do you think I'm stupid?" John reached out as if to calm her down, but Rebecca stepped back. "Rebecca, please, let me explain. It's complicated." "Complicated?" she said, her voice dripping with anger. "You lied to me, John. You wasted my time and made me think you were someone you're not." "Who even does that?" John shook his head, his tone desperate. "It's not like that. My wife and we're not really together anymore. We're just staying under the same roof for the kids, that's all." Rebecca's laugh was bitter. "Oh, really? Is that why she's calling you about rent and groceries, because you're so separated? Do you think I'm gullible enough to believe that?" "Rebecca, I'm telling you the truth," John insisted. But Rebecca wasn't having it. She stepped closer, her eyes blazing. "You lied to me once already. Why should I believe anything you say now? You're a liar, John, and I don't have time for liars." John opened his mouth to respond, but Rebecca held up a hand to stop him. "Don't even bother. I'm done here. Don't contact me. Don't try to explain. Just stay out of my life." Without waiting for his reply, Rebecca turned and walked back into the coffee shop. She grabbed her bag and left, ignoring the curious stares of other customers. As Rebecca drove, her mind was in chaos. Anger and humiliation burned within her as she replayed John's lies in her head. She gripped the steering wheel tight, her knuckles turning white. The nerve of him pretending to be single, acting so innocent. What kind of person does that? Her phone buzzed, interrupting her thoughts. Glancing at the screen, she saw it was her mother. With a sigh, she picked up the call through her car's hands-free system. "Rebecca, how did the date go?" Her mother's cheerful voice came through. Rebecca clenched her jaw. "Mom, I really don't want to talk about it right now." "What happened this time? Did he not show up? Or was he rude?" "Rebecca, you need to start being more patient with people." Rebecca rolled her eyes. "Mom, I'll explain everything when I see you. Right now, I'm not in the mood. Please, just let me cool off." Her mother sighed. "All right, but don't wait too long. You know how I worry about you." "Okay, Mom. I will come by later," Rebecca said, her voice calmer, though the storm in her chest remained. As the call ended, her stomach grumbled loudly, reminding her that she hadn't eaten much all day. Looking around, she realized she was far from the city center where restaurants were easy to find. Thamada's area was quieter, with only a few roadside stalls selling fruits and snacks. She spotted a vendor with a colorful array of fruits and decided to stop. Parking her car by the roadside, she got out, inhaling the scent of ripe bananas and fresh pineapples. The vendor, an elderly woman with kind eyes, greeted her warmly. Rebecca selected a bunch of bananas and a few oranges, her thoughts still clouded by the disastrous date. Just as she was handing over the money, she felt a light tap on her shoulder. Startled, she turned around to see a man standing there. His clothes were worn and patched in several places, and his shoes looked like they had seen better days. Yet, despite his shabby appearance, there was something striking about him. His face was handsome, with sharp features and deep brown eyes that held a quiet sadness. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said softly, his voice steady but humble. "I'm really sorry to bother you, but I haven't eaten in 2 days. Could you spare me some change for food?" Rebecca froze, surprised by his honesty. She had seen beggars before, but there was something different about this man. His dignity shone through his tired appearance, and his eyes seemed to hold a story she couldn't quite grasp. Without thinking, she reached into her bag and pulled out some money. "Here," she said, handing him a few bills. The man's eyes widened in surprise as he looked at the money. "Thank you so much," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "You have no idea how much this means to me." Rebecca gave him a small smile, though her mind was still reeling from the events of the day. "It's okay. Just take care of yourself." The man hesitated for a moment, as if he wanted to say something more. Then he nodded and stepped back, clutching the money tightly. Rebecca watched him walk away. Who was he? What had brought him to this point? There was a quiet strength about him, a resilience that intrigued her. As she got back into her car, she couldn't shake the encounter from her mind. For a brief moment, her anger at John faded, replaced by a strange sense of purpose. The next morning, Rebecca woke up earlier than usual. She couldn't shake the image of the man she had met by the roadside the day before. There was something about him, something raw and genuine, that made her curious. She found herself wanting to know more about his story. After her morning coffee, she decided to go back to the same spot. She wasn't entirely sure if he would be there, but something in her heart urged her to try. When she arrived at the roadside stall, the elderly fruit vendor greeted her again with a warm smile. Rebecca glanced around, searching for him, and her heart skipped when she spotted him sitting under a tree nearby. He looked even more exhausted in the daylight, but his posture was upright, and there was a quiet dignity in the way he held himself. He seemed lost in thought, staring at the horizon as if searching for answers the world hadn't given him. Rebecca walked over, her heels crunching softly on the gravel. The man noticed her and quickly stood up, his expression a mix of surprise and nervousness. "Good morning," Rebecca said, her voice soft but confident. "Good morning," he replied, his tone respectful. "I thought I'd see you here," Rebecca continued. "I didn't catch your name yesterday." The man hesitated for a moment before answering. My name is Benjamin, he said, his voice steady. I'm just a poor man from a poor family. I lost my parents years ago, and since then life has been hard. Rebecca nodded, her curiosity deepening. Benjamin, can I ask you something? Of course, he said, his eyes meeting hers with a mix of curiosity and caution. How come you speak so well? Rebecca asked. You don't sound like someone who grew up without opportunities. Benjamin gave a small, shy smile. I listen to people, he said simply. When I walk past people talking, I pay attention. I hear the way they speak, the words they use. Over time, I've learned to speak like them. Rebecca was impressed. That's incredible, she said, genuinely amazed. You're a fast learner? Benjamin smiled. It's the only way I can hold on to some hope. I may not have much, but I can still learn. Rebecca smiled, feeling a strange warmth in her chest. She liked his honesty, his humility. There was no pretense about him, no arrogance. He was just real. Benjamin, she began, choosing her words carefully, would you mind if we became friends? Benjamin blinked, as if he hadn't heard her correctly. Friends? He repeated, his voice filled with disbelief. Yes, Rebecca said with a nod. I think you're an interesting person, and I'd like to know more about you. Benjamin looked at her, his expression a mixture of shock and gratitude. Are you serious? A woman like you wants to be friends with someone like me? Why not? Rebecca asked, her tone light but sincere. Friendship isn't about money or status. It's about connection. And I think we could be good friends. For a moment, Benjamin didn't know what to say. His life had been filled with rejection, with people looking down on him or pretending he didn't exist, and now here was this beautiful, wealthy woman offering him something he never expected, friendship. I'd be honored, Benjamin finally said, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you. Rebecca, I don't know why you're doing this, but thank you. Rebecca smiled warmly. It's nothing, Benjamin. Let's just take it one day at a time. As they talked more, Rebecca learned little details about Benjamin's life. He had grown up in a small village, losing his parents to illness when he was just a teenager. With no one to turn to, he had come to the city in search of a better life. But the harsh realities of the world had left him on the streets. Rebecca listened intently, her heart breaking at the struggles he had faced, but despite everything, Benjamin's spirit remained unbroken. Before leaving, Rebecca handed him some money and promised to visit again. Rebecca walked into her apartment, the events of the day playing through her mind. She felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, excitement, and even a little peace. She couldn't believe she had actually made a new friend, especially someone so different from the people she usually surrounded herself with. She placed her purse on the table and sat down, thinking about their conversation. Benjamin's story had moved her in a way she hadn't expected. Despite his hardships, he was kind, well-spoken, and full of life. It was refreshing to meet someone who didn't want anything from her. No money, no favors, just genuine friendship. She had enjoyed their talk more than any blind date she'd been on in the past few months. Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was her mother calling. Rebecca sighed, but this time there was no frustration in her heart. She knew what the conversation would be like. Her mother had been relentless about finding her a husband, but Rebecca wasn't in the mood for any pressure tonight. She answered the call with a soft, "Hello, Mom." "Rebecca, how was the date?" "Was he nice?" her mother asked eagerly. Rebecca chuckled. the memories of John's behavior still fresh in her mind. "It didn't go well, Mom. I found out he's married." Her mother gasped. "What? Married? That's terrible." Rebecca could hear the anger in her mother's voice. "I'm fine, Mom. I'm actually relieved, but don't worry, I'm not letting this get to me. I met someone today, a new friend, and we had a great conversation. He's not like the usual men you set me up with." Her mother's voice softened. "A new friend? That's good, I suppose, but remember, Rebecca, you're not getting any younger, and you know how I feel about this. We need more grandchildren in this family. You have to find someone before our family reunion next month." Rebecca smiled to herself. "Yes, Mom. I know, don't worry, I'm sure I'll find him." "You'll meet him soon." Her mother sighed, but there was warmth in her voice when she spoke again. "I know, my dear. Just take your time, but don't take too long. Okay?" "I promise, Mom. I'll figure it out. I'm not rushing anything. I want it to be real this time." As the call ended, Rebecca felt a sense of calm wash over her. The next morning, Rebecca couldn't shake off an idea that had formed in her mind. As much as she hated giving in to her mother's pressure, she couldn't bear the thought of showing up alone at the family reunion. She had endured years of snide remarks from her cousins and aunts, always asking why she was still single. This time, she was determined to change the narrative, even if it meant bending the truth. She got ready, drove to the spot where she had first met Benjamin, and found him sitting on the same bench. He greeted her with his usual warm smile, his eyes lighting up as if he'd been waiting for her. "Rebecca, you came back," he said, genuinely surprised. "Yes, I did," Rebecca said with a nervous laugh. "Christopher, I need your help with something. I know this might sound crazy, but hear me out." Christopher became curious as he listened. Rebecca hesitated for a moment, then continued. "I need you to pretend to be my fiancé." Christopher's jaw nearly dropped, his surprise turning into confusion. "Why would you ask me that?" Rebecca took a deep breath. "My family has been on my case about getting married for years. They're relentless, and there's a family reunion coming up in 2 months. If I show up alone again, I will be the laughingstock of the entire family. I need someone to pretend to be my fiancé, and I thought maybe you could help me. I'll pay you well. You won't have to worry about anything for a long time." Christopher stared at her, unsure of what to say. "You want me, a homeless man, to pretend to be your fiancé? Rebecca, I'm not sure I'm the right person for this." Rebecca smiled. "You're perfect. No one in my family knows you, and you're smart. I'll teach you everything you need to know. Please, Christopher, I really need this." Christopher thought for a moment, then nodded. "All right. If it means that much to you, I'll do it." Rebecca clapped her hands in relief. "Thank you. But there's a catch. You'll need to stay with me so I can teach you how to act the part. We'll work on your appearance and how to behave around my family." Christopher hesitated, but finally agreed. "If you think I can do this, I'm willing to try." Rebecca wasted no time. She took Christopher to a salon where a barber gave him a proper haircut and trimmed his beard. As the barber worked, Rebecca couldn't believe how much Christopher transformed. When he turned to look at her after the cut, she gasped. "Wow," she whispered. "You look amazing." Christopher rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed by her reaction. "It's just a haircut, Rebecca." "No," Rebecca said. "It's not just the haircut. You're actually very handsome." They left the salon and Rebecca took him shopping for clothes. She picked out several outfits for him, suits, casual wear, and even shoes. Christopher looked uncomfortable at first, but Rebecca encouraged him. "You will need these if you're going to convince my family you're my fiancé," she said with a smile. By the time they were done, Christopher looked like a completely different person. As they drove back to Rebecca's house, he looked out of the window, deep in thought. When they arrived, Rebecca showed him to the guest room. "This will be your room for the next 2 months," she said. "We will start your training tomorrow. You'll learn how to act, talk, and everything else you need to know." Christopher nodded. "Thank you, Rebecca. I will do my best not to let you down. I know you won't. Now get some rest. We have a lot to do, too." The next day, Rebecca was in her office going through some paperwork when her phone suddenly rang. She glanced at the caller ID and saw John's name flash across the screen. She sighed, already irritated. John had a way of popping up at the worst times, and today was no different. She reluctantly answered the call, trying to keep her voice calm. "Hello, John," she said, her tone cool. John's voice came through, filled with mockery and laughter. "Oh, you foolish girl. So you've chosen to spend your money on a poor man. I saw you the other day buying clothes for him. With the way he looked so scared and nervous around you, I can tell he's very poor." "What nonsense, John." Rebecca clenched her fist, but she refused to let his words get to her. Instead, she took a deep breath, her voice steady as she fired back. "At least he's not married, John. He's more handsome, more intelligent, and more respectful than you could ever dream of being. He's not married, unlike you, pretending to be a good husband while cheating. And you know what? He's got class, something you will never understand." John chuckled, thinking she was upset. But Rebecca wasn't done. She let out a quick laugh before adding, "And by the way, John, they say a man who talks too much is trying to cover up something. You must be hiding a lot, huh? Like maybe the fact that your wife is the real man in the relationship." There was silence on the other end of the line. John was probably trying to come up with a comeback, but Rebecca wasn't giving him any space to speak. "You know, John," Rebecca continued, "I've heard that some people are like bad Wi-Fi, always trying to connect but never really going anywhere. That's you, John." Before he could respond, Rebecca hung up. She leaned back in her chair, satisfied. John had tried to put her down, but she wasn't having any of it. She had fired back with the truth and some humor that he would probably be thinking about for days. She smiled, knowing she was better off without him. When Rebecca got home that evening, she was still feeling a little lighthearted from her conversation with John. As she walked through the door, her phone buzzed. It was a message from her friend Tasha asking if she could come over to talk. Not long after, Tasha arrived, looking concerned. "Rebecca, I don't get it," Tasha said, sitting down on the couch and looking at her friend with a mixture of confusion and worry. "How can you even think of taking a homeless stranger into your home? Aren't you scared? You don't know anything about him. What if he's dangerous?" Rebecca raised an eyebrow, surprised at Tasha's reaction. She had never seen her friend so uneasy. "Tasha, I understand why you're worried," Rebecca said, sitting down beside her. "But honestly, Christopher is different. I can feel it. He's kind and respectful. He's not like the others. I can tell. And I'm not just doing this out of some sort of charity. He's a human being. People like him deserve a chance, too." Tasha shook her head, still not convinced. But Rebecca, he's a stranger, a homeless man, no less. What if he's pretending to be nice just to get into your good books? What if he's not who he says he is? Rebecca sighed, running a hand through her hair. I thought about all that, Tasha. I've been cautious, but I'm trusting my instincts. I can see that Christopher is different. He's not asking for anything. He's not even trying to get close to me. He's just someone in need, and I want to help. Sometimes we have to step out of our comfort zones to do the right thing. Tasha stared at her for a moment, as if weighing Rebecca's words. Finally, she spoke. I get that you want to help, but be careful, okay? Not everyone is as trustworthy as they seem. I just don't want you to get hurt. Rebecca smiled warmly at her friend. I appreciate your concern, Tasha. I'll be careful. I promise. But I think we all deserve a little bit of kindness. I'm willing to give it to him. Who knows? Maybe he'll teach me something about life, something I've been missing. Tasha seemed to relax a little, though her concern still lingered in her eyes. Just don't let your guard down too much, okay? I won't. I'll take it slow, and if I feel uncomfortable, I'll do what I have to do. But right now, I trust him, and I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Over the next few days, Rebecca couldn't deny the growing connection she felt with Christopher. At first, it had been just about helping him get back on his feet, offering him a place to stay and teaching him a little about how to live more comfortably. But slowly, something changed. Their conversations deepened, and Rebecca began to admire his gentle nature, his intelligence, and how easy it was to talk to him. Christopher, too, had started opening up more to her. He'd been through so much in his life, and his stories about the struggles he'd faced had a way of pulling at her heart. She could see the kindness in his eyes, and it made her feel safe. Something she hadn't realized she'd been missing in her life. One evening, as they sat on the couch together, talking about their day, Rebecca realized how close she'd gotten to him. She looked at him, and for a brief moment, their eyes locked. The air between them felt different, heavier, like something was about to shift. Christopher, she whispered, her voice soft but filled with emotion. I never expected to feel this way about you. I don't know when it happened, but you've become someone very important to me. Christopher paused, his eyes searching hers, and he gently placed his hand on hers. Rebecca, I never planned for this either, but there's something about you, your kindness, your strength, that makes me want to be a better man. I'm not perfect, but I want to be good for you. Rebecca's heart raced as she felt the heat of his touch, and before she knew it, they were moving closer. Their lips met softly at first, tentative and unsure. But soon the kiss deepened, filled with the unspoken emotions they had been holding back. It wasn't just a kiss. It was a moment of vulnerability, of raw emotion, of letting go of their fears and allowing themselves to feel something real. And as the kiss continued, Rebecca felt a warmth spread through her chest, something she hadn't felt in a long time. They broke the kiss, both of them breathless. Rebecca's heart pounded as she looked at him, unsure of what to say next. She'd never imagined herself in this situation with a man she'd just met, especially not someone like Christopher. But in that moment, it didn't matter. All that mattered was the way he made her feel. Are you sure about this? She asked quietly. Christopher smiled, his eyes soft and full of tenderness. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. With that, Rebecca let herself relax, allowing herself to trust him fully. They kissed again, this time with more urgency, more passion. It was as if all the walls they'd built around themselves had crumbled, and they were finally free to be with each other. Later that night, as they lay together in the quiet of the room, Rebecca's thoughts raced. She had never expected to feel this way, never imagined that someone like Christopher, who had so little in the material sense, could give her so much in the emotional one. She had let go of her doubts, her fears, and allowed herself to experience something truly beautiful. Christopher gently pulled her closer, his arms wrapped around her protectively. "Rebecca, I know this is all new, but I promise I won't hurt you. I care about you more than I ever thought possible." Rebecca smiled, her heart swelling with affection. "I believe you, Christopher, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." The next day, Rebecca and Christopher went to a jewelry store to pick out a ring. They were standing in front of a glass display case, looking at a variety of rings, each more beautiful than the last. Rebecca had made up her mind to find something that wasn't too expensive. After all, the engagement was just a charade to impress her mother, not a real proposal. But as they looked at the rings, something unexpected happened. The store clerk, an older woman with kind eyes, came up to them and smiled. "Is there a particular style you're looking for?" she asked. Rebecca hesitated, glancing at Christopher. "We just need something simple," she said. "Nothing too flashy." The woman nodded and led them to a different section of the store, where the rings were sparkling with brilliance. She picked up a ring from the counter, a diamond that seemed to glow more than the others. "How about this one?" she asked, holding it out for them to see. Rebecca's eyes widened. The diamond was stunning, so clear, so perfect. It looked like something out of a dream. "It's beautiful," she murmured, "but I think it might be a little too expensive." The clerk smiled knowingly. "Actually, this ring is already paid for. It's free for you." Rebecca blinked in surprise. "Free? What do you mean, free? How can a ring like this be free?" She could hardly believe what she was hearing. This ring was worth far more than anything she'd ever expected to spend on a simple engagement ring. Christopher, too, seemed equally surprised. "Are you sure? It doesn't seem right, he dissoirie." "Sesame did overdaid." The woman nodded, her face serious. "It's a special gift from someone who wishes to remain anonymous. They've already covered the cost, so this ring is yours, no charge." Rebecca's mind was racing. "But why?" she asked, still trying to wrap her head around what was happening. "Why would someone do this for us?" "I don't know, dear," the clerk replied with a smile. "But some gifts are meant to be accepted. No need to question it." Christopher, sensing Rebecca's hesitation, gently placed his hand on hers. "Let's not refuse a gift. We've come this far, and this may be a sign." Rebecca wasn't sure what to think. A free ring that expensive didn't make sense. But Christopher was right. Sometimes gifts were meant to be accepted, even when they didn't come with clear explanations. "All right," she said, a little uncertain but grateful. "We'll take it." The clerk smiled, wrapping the ring carefully and placing it in a velvet box. "I'm glad you've chosen it. I hope it brings you much happiness." They thanked the woman and left the store, still in shock at what had just happened. As they walked back to the car, the weight of the situation began to settle on Rebecca. The ring was worth 3 times the price of her house. It didn't make sense. Who would give away something so precious without any strings attached. When they arrived home, Rebecca sat down, staring at the ring in her hands. Christopher sat next to her, his own thoughts swirling. "I don't know what to make of this," he admitted. "It's strange, but I think it's a good thing. Maybe someone out there is watching over us." Rebecca nodded slowly, still confused but comforted by his words. "I don't know. It feels like we've stepped into a story that doesn't belong to us." Christopher smiled softly, placing his hand on hers again. "Sometimes life has a way of surprising us. I believe that this ring, this gift, is just another step on the path we're supposed to walk." Rebecca looked at him, her heart swelling. "I never imagined something like this would happen, but I'm glad we're in this together." He nodded, pulling her close. "Me too. No matter what happens, I'll be here, and we'll figure this out together." As Rebecca held the ring in her hand, a sense of calm began to wash over her. Maybe she didn't understand everything that was happening, but one thing was clear. Her life was changing in ways she never expected. Dear viewers, who do you think